high estimated capital cost for new nuclear capacity. Capital cost is certainly an important factor in financing, but is not the sole determinant of a plant's competitive position. What matters is the cost of electricity from the plant at the time it starts commercial operation relative to the other alternatives available at that time. All the evidence we have, based on our own modeling, on the financial analysis performed by our companies, and on independent analyses by others, suggests that new nuclear capacity will be competitive and profitable. Florida Power and Light and Florida Progress demonstrated this in the financial modeling that supported their request last year for determination of need for new reactors at Turkey Point and Levy County. In FP&L's modeling, the only scenario in which nuclear was not preferred was a world in which natural gas prices were unrealistically low and there was no price for carbon. As you know, the Florida Public Service Commission approved both projects. Independent analyses reached the same conclusions. The Brattle Group analysis comes from an integrated resource plan for the state of Connecticut. You can read the capital costs, assumptions, and levelized cost results for yourself. Based on the economics in their study, new nuclear build is preferred to a supercritical pulverized coal with carbon capture and storage, an integrated gasification combined cycle with CCS, and gas-fired combined cycle with CCS. This chart represents the timeline for licensing and construction for the first new reactors in the United States, approximately 10 years. We expect to be able to shave as much as 3 years from the schedule as we gain experience in licensing and construction and capitalize on standardization. U.S. projects will also benefit from the learning curve in other countries, since most of the reactors being licensed in the U.S. will be built overseas prior to U.S. construction. There are 44 nuclear plants under construction worldwide and 108 more ordered or planned. As I mentioned earlier, 13 new COLs applications were submitted to the NRC last year, bringing the total of projects and licensing to 17. The NRC has docketed all 17 applications. 3 companies, Southern, Scanner, and Progress, signed engineering, procurement, construction contracts last year. Most of the early projects have ordered their long lead items. This year and next, we expect at least one more COL application from FP&L. Southern Company should receive its early site permit for units 3 and 4 at the Vogel site in Georgia. For some projects, site work should begin this year, including land clearing, site preparation, building of roads, and other activities. We do not underestimate the challenges associated with construction of new plants, and we do believe they are manageable. We are where we are today because this industry started many years ago, and we've talked about it in our previous meetings, I know, on a systematic program to identify those challenges and develop ways to manage them. Hundreds of industry experts have been working with NEI for several years on various working groups and task forces, developing programs to manage regulatory risk and supply chain challenges. Let me take a few minutes to show you where we stand in 4 major areas: financing, licensing and regulation, supply chain, and workforce. Our challenge here is in structuring the financing. New nuclear plants are large projects, probably in a range of $6 to $8 billion in today's dollars. As we showed you earlier, the high cost does not mean these projects are uneconomic or uncompetitive. The challenge is structural. New nuclear plants are large, capital-intensive projects being built by relatively small companies. Financing one of these projects on balance sheet could have negative consequences: stress on cash flow, stress on credit quality, earnings per share dilution from issuance of new equity. We also recognize that these companies are not just building new nuclear plants. They're also building other forms of generation and investing in transmission, distribution, and environmental control technology. The challenges are, of course, somewhat different for the regulated integrated utilities than for the merchant generating plants in those states that have restructured. But the challenges can be managed with appropriate rate treatment from state regulators to credit support, and credit support from federal government loan guarantee programs, or a combination of both. Supportive state policies include recovery of development costs as they are incurred, and construction work in progress, or QIP, which allows recovery of financing costs during construction. QIP is actually a very good policy for consumers because it mitigates the rate impact associated with placing baseload nuclear or coal-fired assets in service. For both merchant and regulated utilities, the loan guarantee program authorized by the Energy Policy Act of 2005 should insulate the project sponsor's balance sheet from the credit risks associated with a large capital-intensive project. It also allows increased leverage up to 80% of project cost, which reduces the project's weighted average cost of capital and thus the cost of electricity from the plant. So like QIP, at the state level, the loan guarantee program also delivers a consumer benefit. As you can see from the map, many of the states where new nuclear plants are proposed recognize the strategic importance of new nuclear capacity in their portfolios. In the past several years, a number of them have passed legislation or developed regulations or both to provide supportive rate treatment for new nuclear plant construction. Implementation of the loan guarantee program is proceeding. Congress has so far authorized $42.5 billion in loan guarantee authority, including $18.5 billion for nuclear power plants and $2 billion for nuclear fuels facilities. DOE received Part 1 applications from 14 projects representing total project costs of $188 billion and loan guarantee requests of $122 billion. DOE has not announced how many projects filed Part 2 applications, which were due at the end of December, but we know that the number is down slightly from the 14 Part 1 applications. We know there is interest from export credit agencies in France and Japan in providing financing or guarantees for U.S. nuclear projects, and that will stretch the current $18.5 billion we have available. Nonetheless, it's abundantly clear that $18.5 billion in loan volume is not sufficient, and the industry is committed to pursue additional loan volume. I'm sure you know by now that the licensing process has been restructured to increase efficiency and effectiveness and reduce uncertainty and financial risk. Today's plants were licensed under a two-step process. Electric utilities had to secure two permits, a construction permit to build the plant and an operating license to operate it. Under the new process, all major safety and regulatory issues, reactor design, site suitability, can be resolved before construction really begins, and a company receives a single license to build and operate the plant. As construction proceeds, inspections and tests are performed to ensure that the plant was built in accordance with the approved design. These inspections, tests, analyses, and acceptance criteria, or ITAC in nuclear parlance, are included in the plant's construction and operating license. ITAC are a key management tool. When the ITAC are met, the NRC and the public know that the plant has been built according to its design and will operate safely. There is a high threshold for intervention after the license has been issued and the plant constructed, so an intervener must provide objective evidence that an ITAC has not been met or will not be met prior to operation. Absent such evidence, or the emergence of a significant new safety issue, which is unlikely, we believe, there is no basis for intervention and no grounds for a post-construction hearing that could delay operations. Review and approval of new plant design certifications and license applications is a multi-year process. With 17 COL applications, 3 design certifications, and 1 design certification amendment under review, the workload must be carefully managed by the industry and the NRC.